to go. Thank you. Sorry.
So still bullying people at SBG?
Allegedly. Allegedly, yeah.
How has the training been going for this one?
Training was great. You always hear fighters say it's the best camp ever, but it was the best camp ever. But it was difficult. We tweaked everything, just took it up a notch. Each time we'll get close to my line of breaking, essentially. And this one, it was going against the biggest, toughest opponents I've ever been with. The conditioning was pushed up that extra little degree, so everything was dialed up that little bit more because last camp went perfectly well. This one went swimmingly as well, but we just dialed it up that extra little bit more, cranked it to 11 because we got a tough opponent in front of us.
When fighters say, "Oh, this is the best camp I've ever had," is that just the case of you've been able to push your body as far as it can go without injury? Is that what that means?
I can look at what I did last camp and what. And look at the numbers, as well as look at what felt like my effort to achieve those numbers. And the effort last camp felt extremely high to get lower quality work in than I did this time. This time I came in with kind of just more energy this camp. I think that little bit of a break since December got inject all the energy back into me, and this camp got kicked off to a good start. It was only the last week of hard work really where it was like, okay, this feels like a slug through camp. But then if you look at the guys I was going with, sparring, everything, it was tougher, So the difficulty was higher, but the effort felt lower. So that's always nice.
Give us a few of those names that you were sparring with. Who are the guys we should be
Nikolai, which we've seen him all over Instagram with Conor McGregor. He helped Conor with some of his camp last time. I was wrestling with him, so we can imagine how it went. I showed one clip on my social media, me getting perfectly suplexed. Luckily, healthy neck. I can look over my shoulders, so luckily good. But, he stepped up his game. He had his first professional win a couple months ago. He's a real tough guy, and then it's the same household names. But he was one key guy we brought in for this camp to work with specifically because, one, he's a new face, so there's new nerves in that sparring. You get that fight nerves in the gym. But also he could push me in that wrestling discipline where Merab is obviously strong in as well.
This is your third time doing this, third fight in the UFC, third time doing all the pre-fight festivities. Is this a process that's starting to feel and become familiar to you?
I don't know if it'll ever feel normal, but it feels. I guess it's regular enough. It's exciting. I love doing this. I get to stand in front of a group of microphones and with lights on me and feel important for once in my life. So it's really cool. I love talking with you guys. So it's something I look forward to fight week. Fight week to me is always exciting and always fills me with energy as opposed to be a big energy draw.
You said it's hard to imagine getting a finish against Merab, or at least hard to imagine getting a quick finish. So what is the key for you here?
The key is to stay on and sharp the entire fight. It's going to be potentially a long 15 minutes. He pushes forward no matter how tired he is, no matter what he's been hit with. So that wears on some fighters. You can see it. Some of his past opponents, they can't seem to stop the pressure that is Merab. He puts on deadly pressure, and for me, it's not getting relaxed, getting comfortable in there where I could be caught with something more unorthodox that he throws, because he does throw some wild shots.
Talking about being comfortable, John is not in your corner for this, I believe. I think Craig is. Is there much of a difference? Does that play any factor for you at all?
When we took this fight, we knew John wouldn't be able to make it. So that was always in our head. It wasn't some last-minute change. So the preparation's been done weeks in advance. We prepared for this. We prepared for John not to be there. But really, this feels like one of those fights where the small little tidbits of advice your corner's going to give you isn't going to change the outcome. If anything in my game gets exploited in this fight and we're not able to get the win, it's because we didn't do our work months ago. It's not because of anything in the 15 minutes of advice that he could tell me. With that said, I have the best corner I could ask for, the second best corner I could ask for, in Curtis Brigham, my original coach, is here. He was here for the Toronto fight. He was there for 6 of my professional fights before this. He's been out there for all but one. And then I have a teammate, Kieran Clark, who's a phenomenal fighter in his own right. So I have the familiarity of SBG as well as my old coach giving me all the sound advice I'm used to throughout my career.
Brad, you mentioned how tough Merab is to finish. You were so close to finishing Matthew Lopez last time. Are you feeling a little bit of pressure to get that first UFC finish?
You know, you can't focus on the finish too much. You know, you could go out and chase the finish, but it's Merab in front of you. Like, let's get serious, guys. Good luck going out there and trying to finish him quick. You know, if the opportunity presents itself, it's going to present itself, and I'm going to hop on it. With Matthew Lopez, the opportunity presented itself. I hopped on it. I hoped for the finish, but we didn't get it. But sometimes it takes, you know, a lot of the guys in my past few fights have been that grindy type. Jay Cuccinello, I put him down twice, couldn't get the finish. Matthew Lopez, I snuck on his back, couldn't get the finish. So I'd certainly like the finish. I want to get out there as fast as possible. But, you know, with certain fighters, you need to be prepared for the long haul.
Now, Brad, sorry, you also mentioned that you're enjoying kind of, feeling important, during fight week. I saw you tweet that a radio station in Winnipeg gave you like a top 100 most fascinating people in Manitoba. So how'd you do that? What makes you so fascinating, Brad?
I don't know what makes me so fascinated. I'm a pretty down-to-earth guy, and I fight in a cage. So maybe the bar in Manitoba wasn't the absolute highest, so I made it. Or maybe there's just something interesting about me. But it's up for you guys, it's up for the fans to think of something interesting about me. I'm just trying to be me, and if they find me fascinating, fantastic. I looked at it, I was like, I don't know why, guys, but I made it on the list, so that's pretty cool.
Maybe there's just 100 fascinating people from Manitoba.
Exactly. Maybe there's just 100 fascinating people from Manitoba, and I came in at number 100. But it is what it is. I made it on the list, and yeah, it's exciting.
There's always pressure right now to be the next George St. Pierre. Everybody's waiting for that next Canadian to really rise to the top. You're undefeated. You won the Ultimate Fighter on a season of undefeated fighters.
Yeah.
Do you feel some sort of pressure to be that next great Canadian?
I'd love to be that next great Canadian. In terms of outside pressure, it doesn't really get to me too much. I put more pressure on myself than I think anybody could put on me. I'd love to be to lead Canadian MMA forward and help push it and help grow the sport here. I don't want to say regrow it, because I know there's been a lot of talk about Canadian MMA and kind of the dark ages and stuff like that we were in. I'm not sure. There's exciting fights put on every couple of weeks in Canada, so it's hard to say. We have a Canadian-filled card here in Ottawa, so hard to say Canadian MMA isn't doing well, but I definitely like to grow it because I love the sport, and I'd like to see other Canadian athletes shine as well.
Back-to-back fights in Canada. Do you like fighting close to home, or is the 40-degree weather in Vegas last summer more appealing?
I love fighting at home. When I came out in Toronto, I got quite the pop. I had a lot of local support, a lot of national support. So it's great to be fighting in front of a Canadian audience and in front of Canadian fans. It also allows me a chance to come back home. So anytime I can go back home, see friends and family, get that energy back injected into you. You go through a hard camp, go home, and it's exciting times. It just leads to, well, so far, a pretty good recipe.
You hear a lot of fighters talk about getting in the zone, right? Let the fans out there know, right before you hit the cage at the CTC, Canadian Tire Center, on Saturday, how do you get in the zone? How do you get your mind right?
You go through a mental checklist in terms of what you have to bring that night, what abilities you have. And when you look at the facts, every time you walk out there, you're checking almost all the boxes that are checked are in your column. Are you in the best shape? Are you, are you healthy? Was your weight on point? Are you refueled, re-energized? Is your jiu-jitsu sound? Is your wrestling sound? Is your strength? All those things, you start checking those boxes and you're like, you know what? Everything's checked in my favor, So I go through that. I get my warm-up in. And after this long, you're still trying to refine it as much as possible. But we found a pretty good recipe that translates into my best performance on fight night.
Let's do a certain song. Music? Before you go on?
A lot of guys like to get hyped up before going out there. I'm going to go fight somebody. If I'm not hyped up, something's wrong with me. Maybe something is wrong with me already. But, I like just something that kind of centers me and refocuses me. So I like Oats in the Water by Ben Howard. Kind of an eerie tune, but that just helps kind of focus me, bring me into that zone, and it translates.
You were featured on SportsCenter yesterday. Did you get any messages about that?
I got quite a few messages about being on SportsCenter. I watched the piece itself. I thought it's pretty cool. Anytime there's videos on me, especially from people like TSN, ESPN, Fox, any avenue itself, I find it extremely exciting. It just feels like I'm strapped in for quite a ride in this UFC run I'm going to make. So I'm just trying to enjoy every moment, just like this.
Going through the Ultimate Fighter and then through these process of your last 3 fights, what is it that you have learned? And like you said, getting used to it and you're strapped in. What is it that you're picking up that you're like, you know what, I can do this better, even though you're still undefeated?
You know, there's some changes. For example, fight week in Vegas that I thought just some extra comfort. So one thing missing fight week for the Ultimate Fighter was have my girlfriend there, Katie Saul. She's a fighter herself, and she really. She understands fight week and understands the pressures that it brings. So, you know, for Toronto, I had her. For this fight, I have her. So little things like that, just little mental things where you're starting to feel maybe, you know, even though you have your team, though, you're missing those comforts of home and routine. So stuff like that. And then it's just enjoying it. I enjoyed International Fight Week when I did the Ultimate Fighter finale. And I'm trying to keep that. I'm trying to keep that excitement. I don't think it'll ever get old, but if it ever does, try to remember when I didn't have it and make sure that I just enjoy the process.
You bring up understanding